Gamification, Iconization, and Tangibility. Well, hey there, welcome back. Gamification, Iconization, and Tangibility. Aren't those cool words? I think at least one of them might not be a real word, but I made it up anyway. I like saying them, but what do they mean? So you know from listening to this that I've always enjoyed looking at things as a system. I see systems in everything, and design and disseminate and so forth, and I try to explain things in this podcast. But it was only recently that I realized that this was what I was actually doing, that it had a name. It was so natural and innate that I didn't give it much thought. And you know that for some of your skills and abilities, you just do it, you don't really even think about it. So previous to giving it a name and realizing it had a name, I was giving it a different name. I was saying it was gamification. I was gamifying things. But that's actually a different thing. See, seeing things as a system is passively viewing what's already in place to understand all the interconnectivity and the gears and so forth. You see all the moving parts and you see how they affect each other. It's understanding the system in place and how it works. But gamifying is taking a system or a process or a procedure and then making it a game. Many years ago, I created 2 pen and paper role-playing games. I designed, molded, and produced 3 12-sided dice to handle the skills in combat. So I have some good experience in trying to take simulations and things in real life and turning them into a game. One note recently is the status game card game. Gamifying is typically taking something in real life, usually something you want to accomplish, something that's mundane, and making it fun. You can gamify anything from getting your kids interested in doing chores, to being creative, to motivating your employees, to exercising and losing weight. But I want to be clear here. Making a game out of something does not mean you disrespect the underlying seriousness of what you're trying to accomplish. On the contrary, gamification can be used for some of the most serious things in life. It's a way to enlarge texture, to see things more clearly, and to give things a shape that otherwise would have none. Iconization. This may not be a word, but it is now. Iconization is my term for taking something and literally making a recognizable icon out of it. Sure, the icon for the messaging app is a speech bubble. The icon for the file manager is like a manila folder. And the icon for TikTok is a musical note. But what's the icon for autism? You may say that I'm just talking about company logos and things, but I'm not. Well, the puzzle piece came to be a representation of autism, as the person who originated it said it was a puzzling affliction, but that doesn't go over too well with a lot of those in the autism community. And then what about anxiety, depression, hypersensitivity? Not everything has a symbol or an agreed upon symbol, like in case in point, the autism symbol. And some of the symbols are overcomplicated and rely on a specific color or set of colors. Let me tell you about my cafe epiphany. I was at a cafe and I noticed the girl behind the counter had a semicolon tattoo on her wrist. Oh, is that a writer thing? Are you a writer? She looked at me and she explained that it's actually the symbol for those that have been affected by suicide, whether personally or knowing someone who went through thoughts on the subject, or who took the ultimate permanent solution. I was, to say the least, taken very much aback by my blissful ignorance on the subject. See, it was a way for her to be reminded, to be comforted, and it was a talking point for those she interacted with. But not everyone gets a tattoo. So I got to thinking. What if there was a way for you to carry a tiny reminder of something like that with you? What if you could be reminded and comforted? What if there was something that you could look at that told you it was okay to be different? That your sensitivity to sound might not be shared or understood by others, and it would give you more stamina to be tolerant? What if it reminded you that with the downs, eventually come the ups? that your ADHD gives you a million ideas, but picking one might be a challenge. And that's okay. So enter the psych charms. So I created little colorful charms that you can put on your keychain. They range from anxiety to ADHD to dyslexia to just being a very positive person. And yes, I included the semicolon. Some of these psychological states of being either don't have an icon that goes with it, or it has a symbol that's too complex or color dependent, or it doesn't have one at all. So I invented a few. And I've created them in different colors, which is one of the advantages of not having a color-dependent symbol. I feel that every one of these states of being, as I like to call it, because psychological disorder is sort of not really applicable, and some of these states of being are things that people would never think of as a disadvantage. But there are also states of being that people think is a disadvantage that can be used positively. And I think there's a pretty big positive side to most things. I mean, people joke about their autistic nature and weaponizing their autism to find something or create something quickly. I mean, I've made jokes about that myself. People with anxiety talk about how it sometimes motivates them. I know about that too. People who experience depression sometimes rise above it and help others. And sometimes they, as I've said before, they know where actual zero is, so a hangnail isn't really going to hit them much. And then there are things like just having lots of creative ideas, or being an artist, or just being a positive person, or having the brain to write things constantly, or to even see things as a system. Everything has an up and down. And I think that's where the motivation and comfort comes in from seeing one of these symbols, making you smile looking down on it. I can tell you that having these on my keychain has been very helpful. Sometimes I look down at them and I smile, and sometimes I'm reminded of things that I forget. Like not being so hard on myself, or realizing that my skills and abilities may come with an asterisk. So I'd like to announce that I am starting, after this episode, the Charm series, where I will focus on each one for each episode. And again, I'm not really focusing on a charm, I'm focusing on what the charm represents, such as autism, or ADHD, or anxiety, or having too many creative ideas, and so forth. I've touched on some of these states of being in the past, but this will be a series that you can follow along with that specifically targets each one for each episode. I hope you enjoy the episodes, the charms, and truly feel that you're seen, because you are.
Living life every day, late at night, not okay. All I want, and I pray, all I need are some better days.
Do you have a story to share or a question? If your idea makes it to a podcast, you will receive a shout out as well as a token of my appreciation. Join the community, patreon.com/alchemy for life.
All I need are some better days.